Jason, and this is your commentary on Matthew chapter 5. Now, in the next three chapters, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, Jesus is going to give what's called the Sermon on the Mount. It is perhaps the most comprehensive compilation of teachings directly from him. In chapter 5, we're going to see Jesus talk about who is actually blessed. We're going to learn what it means to be a believer in this world and how we're supposed to interact with this world. We're going to learn about, did Jesus come to replace the law or to fulfill it? Because we have a New Testament and an Old Testament. What does that mean about the Old Testament now that Jesus is here? He will also take several big topics. We're going to discuss murder. We're going to discuss adultery and divorce, about breaking promises, about taking revenge, and about hating and despising your enemies. He addresses all of this in this chapter. Jesus saw the crowds, so he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him. Then he began to teach them. He said, "Blessed are those who are spiritually needy. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Blessed are those who are sad. They will be comforted. Blessed are those who are humble. They will be given the earth. Blessed are those who are hungry and thirsty for what is right. They will be filled. Blessed are those who show mercy. They will be shown mercy. Blessed are those whose hearts are pure. They will see God. Blessed are those who make peace. They will be called children of God. Blessed are those who suffer for doing what is right. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Blessed are you when people make fun of you and hurt you because of me. You are also blessed when they tell all kinds of evil lies about you because of me. Be joyful and glad. Your reward in heaven is great. In the same way, people heard the prophets who lived long ago." This section is known commonly as the Beatitudes, or the Blessed. In this passage, Jesus twists something on top of its head. The concept of who's blessed. When you look out at people in the world, typically we see the rich, the powerful, the famous. Those people we think are blessed. And yet Jesus turns it around and he says the exact opposite. He says, "Blessed are those who are needy. Blessed are those who are sad. Blessed are those who are humble, who are hungry, who show mercy." So when it comes to Jesus, the blessed aren't the ones that have all the stuff in the world. The truly blessed are those who are depending upon God. Those who truly trust in him will be blessed. You are the salt of the earth. But suppose the salt loses its saltiness. How can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything. It will be thrown out. People will walk all over it. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill can't be hidden. Also, people do not light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand. Then it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine so that others can see it. Then they will see the good things you do, and they will bring glory to your Father who is in heaven. So what is the role of a believer in the world? Well, Jesus says we are supposed to be like salt and light. Salt was used as a preservative. It was actually paid to the soldiers because it was so important to them back then. If you wanted to keep anything and keep it fresh, you would have to have salt. And of course, light, without light, you can't move around. You'd stumble around in the darkness. You'd hurt yourself. Jesus isn't saying that we should go into the world and be so much like the world that they don't see a difference between us. But he also doesn't tell us to hide away from the world so that they can't see us. We're not supposed to separate ourselves completely, but we're supposed to separate ourselves by our actions and by our thoughts and what we do. The whole purpose of us being blessed in the first place is that they may see our good works and glorify our Father in heaven. Do not think I have come to get rid of what is written in the law or in the prophets. I have not come to do this. Instead, I have come to fulfill what is written. What I'm about to tell you is true. Heaven and earth will disappear before the smallest letter disappears from the law. Not even the smallest mark of a pen will disappear from the law until everything is completed. Do not ignore even one of the least important commands, and do not teach others to ignore them. If you do, you will be called the least important person in the kingdom of heaven. Instead, practice and teach these commands. Then you'll be called important in the kingdom of heaven. Here's what I tell you. You must be more godly than the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. If you are not, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, this is a little bit weird because this is one of the few times that Jesus might be considered as complimenting the Pharisees. He's actually saying, do what the Pharisees say, right? He says that we're supposed to be more godly than them. How can you be more godly than someone who is already following the letter of the law? Well, that's what Jesus is about to get into. We're not supposed to just follow the letter of the law, keep our actions in check, which is what the Pharisees were big on. Instead, Jesus is going to take the entire law and not replace it, but give its full meaning that was never understood before. And he's going to show them what they did not realize, so that the law is going to be truly fulfilled. Here's one of the first examples he uses. You have heard what was said to people who lived long ago. They were told, do not commit murder. Anyone who murders will be judged for it. But here's what I tell you. Do not be angry with a brother or sister. Anyone who is angry with them will be judged. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, must stand trial in court. And anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire in hell. Suppose you are offering your gift at the altar, and you remember that your brother or sister has something against you. Leave your gift in front of the altar. First go and make peace with them. Then come back and offer your gift. Suppose someone has a claim against you and is taking you to court. Settle the matter quickly. Do this while you're still together on the way. If you don't, you may be handed over to the judge. The judge may hand you over to the officer to be thrown into prison. What I'm about to tell you is true. You will not get out until you have paid the very last penny. So Jesus starts with the command about do not commit murder. And everyone knew that command. Even in our culture, we know, you're not supposed to murder. You commit murder, you get thrown in prison. But Jesus takes it one step further and he says, don't even be angry with one another. It's really easy to say, oh, I haven't killed anyone today, so I'm doing well. But to say that I've respected everybody I encountered today, that is a lot harder to do. You've heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But here's what I tell you. Do not even look at a woman in the wrong way. Anyone who does has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, poke it out and throw it away. Your eye is only one part of your body. It is better to lose an eye than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. If your hand is only one part of your body, it is better to lose a hand than for your whole body to go into hell. So, is Jesus actually saying that we should poke out our eye or cut off our hand if it's going to cause us to sin? Don't go that far, okay? Please. He's not saying that, but something very similar. Anything that causes you to sin, it is better to get rid of it, get it out of your life, than to have it in your life and have everything be tainted by that sin. So, instead of cutting off your hand or poking out your eye, maybe it's a bad relationship that you need to cut off. Maybe it's your use of the internet, especially when you're alone, that you need to cut off. Anything that's going to cause you to sin, it's better just to get rid of it. It's not worth your soul. It has been said, suppose a man divorces his wife. If he does, he must give her a letter of divorce. But here's what I tell you. Anyone who divorces his wife makes her a victim of adultery. And anyone who gets married to the divorced woman commits adultery. A man may divorce his wife only if she has not been faithful to him. Now, they used to be allowed to give a letter of divorce in order to separate from their wife. And so Jesus is saying, no, you can't do that just whenever you want, only in a situation where the wife has been unfaithful. But you have to read the Bible in the full context. In other passages, Jesus actually says that even that is not what God wants for us. He doesn't want us to get a divorce, even in a situation like unfaithfulness. Now, again, take everything that's being said in the understanding of the entire Bible. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, you don't have to divorce your spouse, but if it's unhealthy and dangerous for you, then remove yourself from the situation. Get out of there. So be safe. But he's not encouraging divorce here just because you're having trouble getting along. Again, you have heard what was said to your people long ago. They were told, do not break the promises you make to the Lord. Keep your promises to the Lord that you have made. But here's what I tell you. Do not make any promises like that at all. Do not make them in the name of heaven. That is God's throne. Do not make them in the name of the earth. That is the stool for God's feet. Do not make them in the name of Jerusalem. That is the city of the great king. And do not make a promise in your own name. You can't make even one hair of your head white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one. Have you encountered people who, when they're trying to tell you something, they say, well, I promise, or, well, this time I really mean it, or I'm serious this time? What does that mean about the rest of the times that they've been talking to you? Have they not been serious? People would make promises so that way you know you could trust them. But a person who is truly trustworthy, who everything they say is true, doesn't need to make promises. And that's what Jesus is getting to. Let whatever you say be true. You've heard that it was said, an eye must be put out for an eye, a tooth must be knocked out for a tooth. But here's what I tell you. Do not fight against an evil person. Suppose someone slaps you on your right cheek. Turn your other cheek to them also. Suppose someone takes you to court to get your shirt. Let them have your coat also. Suppose someone forces you to go 1 mile. Go 2 miles with them. Give to the one who asks you for something. Don't turn away from the one who wants to borrow something from you. Now, the eye for an eye or tooth for a tooth is actually from the Old Testament and was in order to keep things from escalating, where if you hurt me, then I'm allowed to do an exact same amount of damage to you. That way it didn't get out of hand. And Jesus is saying, instead of trying to have a fair revenge, why seek revenge at all? If they want something, just give it to them. And we'll see further on in the next couple of chapters, the whole purpose that Jesus is setting up here is how we are supposed to be in the kingdom of God. Who are we supposed to be with God and with one another and with ourselves? You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. But here's what I tell you. Love your enemies. Pray for those who hurt you. Then you will be children of your Father who is in heaven. He causes his sun to shine on evil people and good people. He sends rain on those who do right and those who don't. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Even the tax collectors do that. If you greet only your own people, what more are you doing than others? Even people who are ungodly do that. So be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. The law was not given to us in order to save us. It was given to us to show us who could. That Jesus takes the law and he moves it from a person's actions to a person's heart, ending with, be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. This begs the question, who can fulfill such a law? The answer? Only Jesus. Regardless, this is still something we should strive towards because we want to be like him. Well, that's it for our commentary on Matthew chapter 5, part 1 of Sermon on the Mount. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.